Hello folks. So in this video, I want to talk about the updates from release engineering team in TC. So I'll start off by showing my browser. So the updates are two of them. So one is about unmanaged clusters. So we have started writing new end-to-end tests, in Golang. And one example is the unmanaged cluster end-to-end test. So you can see this PR over here. So Aman has worked on this, and there's also a demo for it here. And in this video, I want to talk about another demo, like another thing that we are working on, which is existing end-to-end tests. We are trying to move it from Bash to Golang. So we are starting with Azure Management and Workload Cluster end-to-end tests. So the code is a work in progress still. We are yet to raise a PR in Community Edition repo. So this is the repo, and you can actually see a lot of the source code and the GitHub issues have a lot of notes and ideas and whatnot. So for example, this has a lot of ideas and some code here and there. So it captures ideas, code, notes, improvements, and many other things. So you could go check out the code and GitHub issues, and like you can send in feedback. Please send in feedback, ideas, concerns, or anything you may have around end-to-end test that would help us make it better. So we are currently taking all the painful learnings from our experience in running bash end-to-end test, bash script implementation of end-to-end test, to also general learnings about end-to-end test and cloud platforms, and putting it all together in the Golang end-to-end test code. So trying to bring the best of all worlds. This is still like not completely converted, the Azure Management Workload Cluster. We are still like in the process of converting. Most of it is converted, but things like say cleanup or some small things are yet to be taken care of. So the features of Bash are yet to be like put in the same way in Golang, but some things are new and extra in Golang. For example, in Bash, we hadn't done this thing where we didn't automatically accept the image license terms for Azure VM image. So in the case of Golang, we started doing this already by doing a dry run of the cluster management or workload cluster, and then checking out the name of the Azure VM image, and then things like the publisher offer, which are mostly going to be constant, but we still pick it up from the YAML and then like use that to accept things. So I'll show you a demo now. So this is a demo of the logs. So this is currently still running. I think it's done. It's going to be done. So when you can run it using Go test. So basically, it looks something like this. You basically just do. You can clone this. You need to have 1.17 Golang, and then you need to have Azure credentials, of course. So there is a sample over here. So you can see the sample. So you need the client ID, client secret, and then SSH public key to actually SSH into the machines, say control plane machines or worker node machines of the Kubernetes cluster that you're going to deploy, and then your tenant ID and subscription ID, of course. So that's that. And so you can copy the sample and then modify it and then source it out, and then ensure that you clean up the cache, because Golang caches the thing. So if you run once and it succeeds, run again, it will just fail, saying, I mean, it will succeed and it will just say cached. So clean up the cache, and then you can just run the test. And I put a timeout of 2 hours, but it won't take 2 hours. It should take less than like 1 hour or something. I think the last time I tried out, it took some 15 minutes. That's still long. We're going to try to actually reduce that. So the things that we do in Azure end-to-end test is that we run a management cluster, and then we run a workload cluster, and then we delete the workload cluster, and then we delete the management cluster. So this is how it looks like. So you can see that it says logs and things like that. So this is a log file where we capture all the logs. So it checks Tanzu CLI installation, it checks if the management cluster plugin is there, and then the workload cluster plugin, it shows the version and all. And then it checks if the Docker CLI engine installation and all is good. And it also checks the Kubernetes installation, kubectl installation, and then checks required environment variables for Azure, and then it extracts the Azure test secrets and all that. And you can actually see that this runs dry run over here, so that you can actually pick up the Azure. Oops, I'm not sure if you're seeing my terminal. Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry, I think I might not have shown my terminal, but okay. So yep, so this is the checking of the Tanzu CLI installation, management cluster plugin installation checking and all that, and then checking the environment variables and all that. So finally, you see that we are running a dry run of management cluster to get the Azure virtual machine image details so that we can accept it. So you can actually see, so these are actually standard error logs. So Tanzu puts them on standard error and we show that as error. This is something that we are going to consider and think about how we can actually change this off or consider this as error itself, because even errors are put in standard error. Um, and so you can see actually it says getting marketplace terms, and then like it's saying it's accepted already. So okay, so this was a cat of the log once. Um, and so this is how it looks like. Once you move past that, you can actually see it saying again, like, so there are two virtual machine images mentioned. One is for the control plane, another is for the worker node, and then you actually see the whole actual cluster creation happening, and setting of the up of the bootstrap cluster and all that. And finally it creates the cluster, and you can see that it's saving the management cluster kubeconfig, and then installing cluster API the components in that. And then finally it says the cluster is created. And you can also see like the kubeconfig command being used to actually pull the credentials. And then finally it's showing the information about the cluster. So management cluster, the name, and then information. So API server version is this, and then pod names, pod namespace, what is the face. So this is still not in a great table format. We're still going to work on it. And finally, we are actually running workload cluster creation command, and we do a dry run to actually get again Azure VM image details so that we can accept the terms. And we see that it's already accepted. So if it's not accepted, it will say, hey, I'm going to accept it now, and then show any errors if there are going to be issues there. And finally, we create the workload cluster over here. And once it's created, we actually check it out and see if it's running. And we say that it's running successfully. And then we get the credentials and all, and then show information about the cluster. And finally, you can see actually we run the delete command for the Azure workload cluster, and it says it's being deleted. And then so this has verbose logs as of now. We plan to actually probably silence this off. So it says waiting for the workload cluster to get deleted for some time, and it checks if it gets deleted, and at some point it says so so no, so it takes around some 7-8 minutes to delete a workload cluster, I think. So it was a lot of logs. We will be silencing those. Okay, so yeah, finally you see that the last time you do a cluster list, it's an empty list, and it says it's deleted successfully. And then finally we delete the management cluster. So you can see the whole deletion happening, and so this is still happening. Um, here, I think this is one sec. I think it is done. Some reason, I think this terminal got stuck. Let me try to probably close this off. Okay, so I can show from here maybe. Say, okay. So you can see over here that deleting management cluster, and then it says deleted, and then it's done. So this is the Go test output over here. So if you go to the top, you can actually see Go test being run. So you can see the logs when you run the Go test, but I think we still have some issues to fix there, as in like it takes some time for it to show the logs. So you can see Go test, and then it runs everything. It runs the test Azure management cluster, management and workload cluster, and then does all this. It takes time for it to show these logs for some reason. I think there is some like flushing time. but the logs in the log file show up immediately. And let me show the log file. So this is based on 14th, and I think this is the latest. And yep, so you can see the whole logs over here. Yep, so this timing should actually match with this one, should match with this one over here. Yep, so that's that. And so yeah, the code for this, we have been like writing it in Golang, and so it looks like this. It's still a bit like hacky. We have to make it more neat. It's a bit messy. We have to modularize and stuff. We have already modularized to some extent some stuff uh, like things like say Azure related some things, and like Kube client related stuff log, but we still have more to do. And we have also actually done some automation around like uh, running doing an installation of TC automatically. So this is the code for that. There is a tool which does it, which uses this library, and the library takes care of like getting the artifacts and things like that. So that's also something that we've been doing, but we still haven't like wired it up with this Azure management cluster, management workload cluster test. But for now, we just assume that it's already installed, but we do plan to install it. We're using the automation that we have. So that's all I had for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.